Hello, everybody. It's the Clean Breakthrough Podcast presented by, powered by Greenville Transitions. And we have very special guests today. You may know him. His name is David McNeese. David, say something so they can see your face.
I'm back.
And then another guest, his wife. Morgan, say something so they can see your face.
Hey,
Morgan,
I'm back too.
Hey, she's back. She's back. We got another couples episode today. And this one is going to be unique because we're talking about the dynamics of one member of the relationship being in recovery and the other person being an absolute heathen sicko and not in recovery. And how the heck did that work? So, and we'll just kick this thing around and just like chat it out. That's going to be the game plan today. First and foremost, I guess we should establish you guys are married. You have a little baby on the way. We're all very excited about that. Just got done talking about that. Take us back, if you will, though, to the beginning of the love story. How did you two meet? When did you meet? Give us a little bit of an origin, if you will, of like where, how this came to be. Who wants to go first?
Take it away, Morgan.
Morgan, go ahead.
The heathen, if you will.
Yes.
We met about 3.5 years ago. Is that right? 4, going on 4 years, I think, in 2021. We met online on a dating app, as all do these days. And we met like right after the tail end of COVID. So we had like talked for a few weeks and then ended up getting together that January. David had invited me out on New Year's Eve, was supposed to be our first date, and I ended up being out of town. So we grabbed coffee after the new year. And yeah, we got married 1.5 years ago. So it's been going on 4 years.
Very nice. So what year would that have been? That been the beginning of 2020?
2021, January. Yeah. So we were supposed to meet New Year's Eve 2020. But I was out of town with my family. And so we circled back January 2021.
You know what's kind of cool? I'm just realizing y'all's relationship basically started when this office started. So Greenville Transitions Sober Living had already been around for a long time, but the Recovery Center started in January of 2021. And that's also when y'all's like relationship started. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what that, David, you got anything to add to this? Maybe would you like to give us your review of dating apps? Which ones are the best? Which ones are not? What would you like to add to the origin story?
Well, the first thing I'd like to add is the first date that I tried to get her to go on could have been awesome. It was a New Year's Eve Marcus King concert here in Greenville. Marcus King, awesome concert. So that could have been it. She couldn't make it, so we had to postpone for a few days. But dude, I didn't really think about it that way of us starting our relationship when the office started. Because that made it a little harder to navigate.
Very
stuff like that.
I do have distinct memories at that time of hanging out in your office for like our weekly staff meetings, and we had, I feel like, more of them because the office was slower and we were getting it going. But Lucas and I sitting in the matching chairs in front of your desk, and David, as anybody who knows and loves him would know, like David having many thoughts and feelings about this relationship and the direction of it and how it's going. And then just listening to him just like talk away. It was very, very funny. Like I have very fond memories of that time.
What did he say?
Everything. Everything.
Oh boy.
I mean, I'm sure you can only imagine, but just like talking through, David's a very, and this is probably going to go over a little bit into like the recovery aspect of it. David's a very, if I don't say so myself, like very verbal person and like likes to verbally process his thoughts and feelings. And I don't think he gets too stuck in like the shame of like holding things back, of what could be considered negative, nor does he like shy away from the really like positive, big feelings of joy and happiness too. So it was really cool getting to watch him like navigate and continue to navigate, like, what it's like being in a long-term relationship and now marriage. So
Yeah, real quick though, let's go back to the dating apps.
go ahead.
There were two dating apps that were present in my life at the time. One was Bumble,
Yes.
and one was Hinge. And it seemed that Hinge was the more superior app, easier to navigate, and that's where we met first. However, Morgan ghosted me on that app. She just like
Morgan
stopped talking for after maybe a few lines were dropped. So then when that would happen to me, because those apps are so hard to navigate, I would just delete people. If I thought that they were like uninterested or I got uninterested, I would just delete them and get them out of the pool. So I had deleted her. Then I also had Bumble, that app on my phone. And, I paid for the premium subscription that would tell you if people liked you before you swiped on them. So I got this notification that like she had liked me on Bumble. And on Bumble, the female has to talk first. The woman has to be the first one to send a message. It won't let the guy.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
I like this, by the way. I like this.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I know she stopped talking to me on Hinge and I deleted her off that one, but at least on this one, she'll have to be the first one to spark this combo. So I was like, all right, we'll give it one more shot. And I swiped right, which is that's the matchmaker swipe. And here we are about to have a baby.
Yeah, there. All right, Morgan, give us your side of it. Like, what happened with the ghosting of David? Do you remember this? Would you even consider it ghosting? Does he have different definitions of ghosting? Talk us through it. Give us your side of the story here.
Yeah, this is an allegation that we have not been able to prove true.
Interesting.
I don't remember ghosting David on Hinge, but apparently he claims I did. We tried to go back and look, but because he had deleted me, we couldn't pull it back up. So it may or may not be true. I don't recall, but I had told him because he called me out when I messaged him on Bumble. He like let us, I think we exchanged like 2 or 3 messages, and then I got it was like a, hey, by the way, you ghosted me on Hinge text.
Oh, wow, Dave.
And I felt so bad. And so I went back to look and I couldn't find it. So who knows? He claims, but I don't remember ghosting him. It was probably because I was so hot and cold.
Do you remember him from the Hinge?
No.
Escapade. So recollection of, there was no magical first impression here that you can recall from on the Hinge side.
No, not that I remember. And I was thinking about this last night because I knew that he was going to bring this up. This is like David's favorite party story. Whenever we talk about how we met, he loves to tell people that I ghosted him. And I don't remember. So maybe he might have said something that I was like, nah. But I don't remember. I think I was just so hot and cold at the time with the apps that I would be like on them 1 week, take a break the next. So my guess is if I did ghost him, he hit me in a cold week. And then when we rematched, I was actually stuck at home. I had COVID at the time. So I was like stuck at home. That was back when you had to quarantine for like a full week. Yeah. So I was like stuck at home. I lived alone. And I like got back on the apps out of boredom. So bad, but out of boredom. Yeah. And we rematched on Bumble. And no, had he not called me out, I never would have known that we had talked on Hinge. I remember even at the time having no recollection of our Hinge conversation. So sorry, maybe it wasn't very.
See, David, I think you need to tone down the allegations here. And I think you need to express more gratitude to your wife. She was just giving you an accurate portrayal of what it's like to be in a relationship. Some weeks she's hot for you, like cares about you. Other weeks couldn't care less about you. You know what I mean? Like she was just giving you an accurate depiction of what the experience is going to be like right from the get-go. And I think that's very transparent of you, Morgan. Like I'm kind of into you and I'm kind of not into you. Like we're going back and forth. It's just part of being in a relationship.
Yeah, she's like our cat, dude. Sometimes I go to pet our cat and she's like, grr, grr. And other times she like bites my hand. Like, what's going on here?
I know. Think about your role in that, though.
Do you love me or do you hate me?
It just depends. Depends on the day.
Y'all probably David and Morgan also have a cat and a dog. They have Mr. Wilson and Izzy. Would you say it's a fair, like, watching those two critters interact? Is that a pretty fair interactions or description of y'all's interactions? Are y'all similar?
Yeah.
For sure.
My dog is me and her cat is her.
That's hilarious. Really funny. Really excited to see who your kid's gonna favor, and like personality. It's gonna be really funny. Early bets she's gonna be very similar to David. That's early bets.
Yeah, she already is.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that she's already exhibiting David-like traits.
Yeah.
In utero.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So let's roll with this into the next question. How you're going to rate each other in terms of like how transparent y'all were on your dating profiles, on your app profiles. Okay. So Morgan, you're going to rate David on like how transparent and open he was. And then David, you do the same for Morgan. Okay. Of like how transparent and like, was she in her presentation on the dating apps? What do you guys think? Did anybody have a rating yet, or like how they would classify the other person? David, you go first.
Dude, I honestly don't even remember like
really?
what her app said or what she had selected. I can remember like 2 photos specifically to this day that were on there. That's about it. I mean, it would be easier to do like based on our first couple of dates.
Yes.
Transparent.
Yeah.
We were.
So would you say the photos, like that was like where the initial attraction came in of like, okay, I'll swipe right or whatever you said. I'll swipe right on.
I mean, I'm sure it was the words too. I don't remember what the words were.
Okay.
So I'm sure it was both because I was, as Morgan will tell you, I was extremely picky with like who I would swipe right on.
I also know this. I as you remember, I got to hear about all this. Feel like it's like very like cute girl, and they'd be like, I don't know her smile, like it's just
her dog's too big. She's got a big.
I don't know about
dog sheds.
How about you, Morgan? How transparent do you feel like David was, if you even remember, on his profile?
Yeah, I don't know that I don't remember. I don't think the apps are so limited in what you can even put on there that it's like, and I don't remember the difference between Hinge and Bumble because I obviously had both too, but it was like a few pictures. And then I think there was one that had like some short answer sections where it'd be like, what's your favorite? I think on David's, it was like, what's your favorite thing to do in your free time? And he put, I think, pickleball. Or it's like, what do you like to do? It was like eating out. So they were so short form that I don't know that they had a ton of info on them. So it was like your name, your photos. I think it was like what you did for work. You could put your like age and height and where you lived and all that kind of stuff. And then it was all short form. So I don't remember other than I remember the pickleball thing and the eating out thing. So I think that's what I ended up saying on Bumble. It was something along the lines of one of those, but there wasn't a ton of info on there. So you had to like, when I would match with somebody and message with them before I would meet them, I would always have to like Google them or look them up on Facebook to get, because there wasn't, unless they offered up in the messages info. So I don't know that David had a ton of info. It was like a picture of him and Wilson was on there, a few others.
Bro, and I'm a very Googleable guy. Like when you look up my name on Google, it's like, boom, here's a video of this guy's life.
That's true. Was that there at the time? Do you remember seeing any of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, when David and I first, and I wouldn't do that for like everybody that I talked to, but it was, if we got to the stage where we were talking about like meeting up in person, I would like look into them because I mean, it's like the internet. And I was like in my 20s as a single female, and you hear scary stories. So I would always Google before I would meet up with them to make sure, like, are they real? Is there like something crazy? Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, as soon as I put in, David McNeese, Greenville, South Carolina, his entire life story, like the GT website popped up. One of his like personal story videos that y'all had done through The Office popped up. So I had a really good idea of David's background before we ever met.
Yeah. And so, and a lot of that is like recovery based. So you're like seeing it and it's like, this guy is talking about being sober and obviously owning a business where he helps people get sober and stay sober. What was that like for you to see that? And had you ever really dated anybody in recovery at that point?
No, I hadn't. I had never dated anybody in recovery, and I really didn't have like my circle of family and friends. I didn't have experience with anybody who was in recovery. So, I mean, it was something that I thought about, but I would say going into our first date, it wasn't really like top of mind. I mean, I obviously knew, and I don't remember if I even watched one of his videos or not. I think I just like looked on the website and read his bio. And I can't remember. I'm losing my headphones. I can't remember if we had talked about him being sober before we met. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think that was like a conversation that we had. So I think on his profile, it just said he was an executive director. So it didn't say, obviously when I Googled, I realized, but it wasn't until our first date that we like really talked about him being sober and his role with GT and kind of all of that. So I went in like with a bit of an understanding, but it wasn't really something that I thought about before we met.
David, what was that like sharing that with her for the first time? And do you remember anything about that interaction or her response to it?
Not specifically that interaction, because I feel like she was very nonchalant about it. Like, wasn't like, what? You're in what does that even mean? You know, it was none of that.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, that's something I really struggled with earlier on when I first got sober and had, you know, started dating again. I was always very worried about how do I tell people this without them judging me or like wanting to run from it, because it's so different. You know, I got sober at 23 years old. How many 23-year-old women are ready to sign up to be in a relationship with a guy who's not going out, doesn't want to go to bars really, you know, like large percentage of women, that would be a huge lifestyle change for at 23, 24. Or if I'm 23 dating down a little bit, they're just turning 21. Like, who doesn't want to experiment a little bit? So I used to be very self-conscious about that. But eventually I got to this point of like, I just, you know, I got to be honest with people up front. I kind of want to do it first date, and so they can take me at face value and they either accept me for who I am and the journey that I'm on, or they don't. And if they don't, that's fine. There's so many people in this world. I need to be okay with the ones who aren't willing to, you know, be a part of this journey. That was a hard pill to swallow for me. But when I did, you know, that's when, like, I'm sure Morgan would tell you from the first date where we met in person, it's like throwing up. This is who I am. Like, this is what I'm very OCD. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I've been in recovery for this. I mean, my whole life story. Whereas she is way more reserved of a person. It takes her a while to like warm up to you and start sharing. I mean, it's even like that to this day in our couples therapy when we get like, I'm the one that's just word vomiting everything that happened the past week, and Morgan's just
Morgan, if you play that right, it'll just turn into his personal session and you can get out of that thing like
it has. Yeah, we did premarital counseling before we got married, and therapy was like also a new journey to me. Like, I really did not dabble with therapy until David and I met, and then I started going to like individual sessions, and so we did premarital, and I had been to like a handful of individual, like it was just so new. And then you have David, who's been like in intensive therapy since he was in his early 20s, and so I would say the majority of our couple sessions were just like, I mean, I would leave there and be like, I don't need to come next week. Like, I am just here to hang out and like watch you process trauma. So they often turned into, just because he was so used to it and I was not. But I've gotten better.
Well, that was going to be the next thing I want to kind of talk about. Like, how has his recovery impacted you? In terms of like, you know, his like emphasis on mental health, transparency, And, you know, when you look at relationships, like, we're kind of like meant on some level to like give each other the things we're good at, you know, to kind of like help each other get better. How has that affected you? Like being with somebody who's really thinking about its mental health and recovery. Obviously your attendance in therapy has greatly increased as a result. He could be driving you crazy, but that happens too. Yeah. How'd you answer that?
It's definitely, I mean, just been different. I think even like going back to our first date, like he said, and I had never really dated anyone who was so open with who they were and where they were and like past experiences as David was, like from our first date on. And I think even like our first couple dates looked a lot different than, you know, typically it was let's go get drinks or let's go to a bar or let's meet up on a Saturday night. And David and I's first dates were like, let's go at 9 a.m. and get coffee. Let's go walk around Costco was one of our first dates.
That's an important one.
I think
you gotta see how someone handles themselves in Costco.
Very interesting.
I navigate.
That was our third date. Was Costco. We did like 2 coffees and a Costco. They were all like mid-morning. So I think from the get, it was already a lot different than the dating experience of my past. Where like I think David and I knew more about him by week 2 than I think I knew about exes in like 2 months of dating. And so from the get, it was a lot different because we were like doing things during the day. There wasn't alcohol involved. He is so open of a person that, I mean, it was like cards on the table, take it or leave it. Like, I don't really care if you take it or leave it, but like, this is who I am. Which was refreshing. I think when we like started really getting serious is when, I don't know that I would say his recovery like impacted me necessarily, but he definitely brought to light, I think, some things in my own past that maybe, you know, nobody had challenged me on before. And that's kind of where like my own personal therapy journey started, was like things that he would notice or like bring up or talk about where like exes that I had dated would never realize or like never even dare to talk about, like family dynamics and like anxiety. And it was like, I have OCD too. So, you know, all of these things kind of came to light in the beginning. And I think it was hard in some ways, because it's like here's this brand new boyfriend and brand new relationship who's like not picking you apart, but I mean, kind of. And now I look back and it was like super helpful. But I had never dated anyone who was so emotionally like in tune with their feelings.
Yeah.
As David was.
Yeah.
Hold on. I got to touch on a couple of things there. First,
go ahead, Dave.
Oh boy.
First, the Costco trip. Because she tricked me, dude. She tricked me. So
they do this.
Did not trick you.
David, they do this.
She was cool as a cucumber, just like, dude, you would have thought she was floating down the aisles. Just like, ooh, that's cute. Ooh, look over there. That's cute. Dude, now when we go to Costco, she's like, oh my God, get me out of here. There's so many people in here. They're crazy. People are trying to hit me with their shopping carts.
Would it be better if you were by yourself, Morgan, or would it just be better just not to be there at all in Costco?
No, I love Costco. Costco is not the problem. It's like when we go to Costco. So like if I can go by myself, typically like if I'm alone in general, it's like a fight or flight mentality. Like I got to get in there, get out. Versus when I'm with David, like I have somebody to vent to. But also like he wants to go to Costco now on like Saturday morning at 11 a.m., which is the world's worst time to go to Costco. So it is packed in there. And like, it is not fun to me to like ram my cart through crowds of Costco. So yeah, if we can go at like Tuesdays mornings or like Wednesday nights, I'm a lot more like first date me. But when it's Saturday morning, it's brutal in there.
Yeah, the girls like crowds.
Yeah, it was interesting, like the culture side of it too. Like you being from Ohio, and I don't know how that exactly feeds into it, but David being from small town Georgia, like where what you did for a social gathering was go to the like high school football game on Friday night, and you go to probably like the freaking, I don't even know, who knows what they do in South Georgia. I don't even know. Like they go to the chicken roundup, or I don't even know, the rattlesnake roundup. We're going to hang it. The rattlesnake roundup. We're going to, I don't even know what, but there's like a social dynamic to it. And David is a very interesting extrovert, I would say. Like, he definitely needs his time to himself, but you get him around people, it is like you just plugged in like a little energizer bunny to him, and he's all the time like, oh, blah, 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 but I'm just like bebopping around, It's real. All right, so she tricked you, David. That's totally normal. Don't be upset about that. We all trick each other at the beginning. It's just what we do.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to touch on, it was just like I think putting all of my cards on the table was twofold. I think part of it was, I'm now in my 30s, and getting married, having a family is important to me. So it was like, I need to go ahead and like let this woman know what she's signing up for, so she can take it or leave it. Like, one way or the other, either like sign on or sign out type mentality. But the other probably bigger portion of that is like, through recovery, that taught me not to like have secrets. Like, it is very important for me to wear my heart on my sleeve and let people know where I am, where my thoughts are, where my feelings are. I don't like the feeling of hiding things or having secrets, so it's important for me to like shine light on expose all of the cracks or dark corners, nooks and crannies of my life to a person.
Yeah. And I can empathize with you too, Morgan, like, being that I'm not personally like sober or in recovery, but being around a lot of people who are, there is this interesting like balance of getting to a place of like self-acceptance through challenging, and it's like the people I see in my life who are sober are like constantly challenging themselves, or relationship dynamics, or like distrust, or what did you say about this and how did I feel about it? There's just like challenging element that comes to it. And then it gets to this place of like security, of self-acceptance as well. So it's not to say that the people who are sober are always like challenging, or that they're always just sitting there like a Zen monk type of thing. It's a balance of both, but I do think that like pushing oneself is kind of comes with the territory when you're talking about like long-term recovery. And it can be kind of eye-opening. I guess a big question I have for you: why the heck did you stay, and why didn't you run for the hills? What?
Yeah,
that's a good question, Cole. I just thought she was a pretty
okay. I don't know. I don't know that. Running for the hills, like, his sobriety and recovery was never really like it was a factor, but like not really a factor for me when we were dating. I think it was almost harder for like the people in my life than it was for me, and just like the uncertainty of it. Because I can remember like pretty early on, I don't even know if they had met yet, but my mom coming to me, and she didn't know for a while David's background and his story. And when I finally, told her, what he did and where he had come from and the journey he had been on, I think she had kind of come to me with some concern of, is this a world that you want to sign up for? And like, are you okay with being with somebody? Because alcohol was a part of my life. It still is in some degree. I'm definitely not going out like I was when I was in my 20s.
Well, but I hope not.
Well, yes, I'm also 8 months pregnant, but outside of being pregnant, it was, when I would go to dinner, I was having a glass of wine or going out for drinks with friends. Like, it was definitely part of my social world. And so I think for my mom and some of my friends, it was this question of like, are you okay with being with somebody where that's not going to be a part of your dynamic? Like, there's never going to be a night where you're out at a nice dinner, like sharing a bottle of wine, or you're not, going to a party and, having a drink together. Like, that is just not part of the dynamic. So I think for them, there was a lot more question around it than there ever was for me. And I think part of that was just how like open he was about it and how comfortable he was about it. And it was kind of, discussed early on of, I don't drink, but like, I'm okay if you do. Obviously, like, and I would never put him in this place of, I don't want to go out to like crazy bars at 3 o'clock in the morning and like be around that, which is who does. But I think because of the way that he was with it, it wasn't really a factor for me. And, it didn't matter that, he wasn't going to have a glass of wine or partake in some of those things. But I think for the people in my life, it was more of a question mark than it was for me personally.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know from David's side, just from talking to him, that he was looking for somebody that wanted to be in a serious relationship, wanted to get married, have kids someday. Like that's what he was looking for at that time. And I don't even know, David, how many people you dated who were sober as well, but I know that like the person being sober wasn't like a criteria for him, but he did want to make sure he was like very transparent going into it. What do you think going back now, like that you were looking for at that time? I mean, obviously now like life is like taking off, your wife, mom to be, all this stuff. But like, were you looking for that then too? Because it sounds like you weren't really looking for somebody to go like have glasses of wine at the steakhouse or go to, all-inclusive resorts and get hammered drunk together. Like it doesn't sound like that's what you were looking for anyways, hence the acceptance.
Yeah, no, I would say I was looking for the same. I mean, I think David and I do have an age gap. So I don't know that I was quite as far down the process as he was of like, I definitely wanted to get married and to start a family. I don't know that our timelines in the beginning were evenly matched just because we have a 7-year gap. And so when we met, I think he would have been ready to like do those things immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted them, but was a little bit further down the road. But I had, the last relationship I had before David was with somebody who didn't want those things, like did not want to get married, did not want to have kids. And so I kind of left that and had to go through the process of realizing like, okay, I do want all of these things. So I think we were pretty evenly matched in wanting the same outcomes, and we're both dating like to date to find the person that we wanted to marry versus just like dating to date. So I'm sure that was part of it, of being okay with, but it also just like wasn't like the lifestyle difference of like being sober versus not, just like wasn't like, it didn't matter to me.
Yeah, it's funny too, you talking about it, that David would moving faster, and having to be a little bit of a break. I think that's probably, David, you can answer this. I would say that's probably a pretty universal thing in your life. The people around you have to like slow you down a little bit.
Yeah, all gas,
baby, no break.
Yeah,
until he like hits the gas, and then he's like, "Oh my God, what have I done? Was this a giant mistake? Should we have gone down this road?" I'm like, "Well, we're down it now, dude. We're going down it now." Yeah, so there's like enough, like there's a value sharing that y'all were talking about going into it. That really like, and also you never knowing David while using. You never knew David when he was like, handing out balloons in frat houses or growing weed in his closet and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he had been sober for a long time by the time you met him. So there wasn't really the comparison. And that's the same too. I've never known David while using. So it's almost hard to picture because I only know like this David now, Yeah.
David was 9 years sober when he and I met, like going into his 10th year. And so I think had I met him in a different phase, it definitely would have been a lot different. I think, at least looking back, like I'm thinking about it, but no, I mean, by the time that he and I met, he was like almost 10 years into it, working in it. And so I think had I met him, a year in sobriety or even 2, or when he was still using, it would have looked a lot different than it did. I think he was so solid in it that, I mean, it was a part of our day-to-day, but not as much so as had it been different. And I even now, and we've been married going on 2 years and have been together a long time. Even when I hear stories about him now from back in the days when he was using, it's really hard for me to picture like the person that I know and like put him into those stories. Like it's hard to, like, I can't picture it when I even hear the stories of the things that he used to do. So
yeah. How do you guys, this is something I talked to Lucas and Logan about, but how do y'all like help each other on some level, like in taking care of yourselves. With Lucas and Logan, we were talking more specifically about like recovery meetings being a big part of like, both of their dynamics because they're both in recovery. Y'all don't have that. So like, how do you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be recovery meet, but like, how do you guys like kind of like help the other person with their stress or their anxiety? You know what I mean? Like, what are some little ways you try to encourage the other person? Or do you even try? Do you try to stay out of it? What's it like in y'all's dynamic? Dave, you go first.
Well, too, I think one important thing to touch on there is like that dynamic with Lucas and Logan. And like I experienced that dynamic earlier on in my recovery journey. And maybe I wasn't in a healthy enough place yet when I experienced that, like dating a girl who was also in recovery, who was also had the same type of support as I had. And when I say that we weren't in, maybe I wasn't in as healthy of a place because we would kind of like compare our recovery journeys to each other, and it seemed toxic. And very early on, I was like, maybe I don't want this as part of my like love life, and my love story is like somebody that we have the same exact recovery journey and support, and maybe I want that to look different. And so that's when I think I did have like there was a fork in the road for me of, I don't want to date in recovery. I'd rather date and marry and like create a life with someone who is normal in that regard. And I'll keep my little support group over here, my way of figuring it out. And not to say you can't have autonomy, and I know Lucas and Logan do. They have their own support groups and their own support people, but I just found that a little harder to navigate in the beginning, which was why I came to that fork in the road. But as far as us supporting each other with anxieties and stuff, that's always a work in progress, still trying to figure that one out. Because I haven't to minimize things of like when I see her spiking or something that's creating a lot of anxiety, I'm like, I go straight to the opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm like, and I'm trying to think of a funny example that happened the other day. What was it? Where I was like, well, the cavemen didn't have that.
Oh my gosh. I was like I'm trying to have like some labor anxiety because I have 6 weeks left before the baby's here. And so I'm trying to get like, as the one who has to do it, it's like starting to be more present in my brain. And we were talking about campfires. Pregnancy has been a roller coaster of anxiety, and doing it for the first time, and just like the unknowns. And David's family was in town this weekend, and we had a bonfire at the house, and I was like sitting out there with the smoke, and I had this moment where I was like, I feel like this is not good for me. And I did what you should never do when you're pregnant, and I Googled it.
Oh, Lord.
Like, don't sit by bonfires pregnant because it can like cause a whole bunch of stuff, but like preterm labor was one of them. So I am like freaking out, and I'm trying to contain my freak out because like his 10-year-old niece is here, his mom is here. So I just like removed myself, came inside, like took a shower to get the smoke off, and David came in later on, and I was like, and I was casual about it, but I was like, I Googled bonfires pregnant, and it said and David's like, it's fine, you're fine, like what do you think the cavemen did? And it's like, dude, that is not helpful to me in this moment.
So David did to you like what I do to David when he comes to our staff meetings with all these anxieties, because Lucas and I would do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is why I always laugh when I'm with y'all in the office and I watch you do it, and I watch his reaction, because he does it a lot at home. Like he flips. So like I am him at the office, and he is you and Lucas, and just like trying to downplay. And it's coming from a place of like trying to normalize and like decrease anxiety. But when you're like in the thick of it, it just is so not helpful.
Tune in to when Christina and I talk to y'all. You'll hear a bit of this as well. Not helpful at all.
Yeah, I would say, from my perspective though, like dealing with anxiety, Morgan likes to verbally process things too. Like she wants to sit down and talk about things in the moment, whereas I'm more of a break guy probably. of like, I want to go for a run. I want to like burn some of my energy in another place and then come back and talk about anxieties or stressors. What would you say?
Yeah, I think we just like handle conflict and communication and stress a lot differently. And I think it's something that we've learned as we've been married, and especially now, like getting ready to have a baby. We're, going through a lot of that, of like basically comparing notes of, how I process things versus how he processes things. And it's just different. So like where I want to sit here and like talk about it until we have a resolution, like he wants to leave and like go and do. And I think the difference too is that when he comes back from leaving, it's like a clean slate. Like it's like it never happened. He's like refreshed his brain, and I'm still sitting in whatever the conflict was that we had. So we're definitely still trying to navigate like how I handle things versus how he does, and like what the middle ground looks like. And I don't know that we are like great yet at like when one is anxious or the other's anxious, of like what that support looks like, just because we do things so differently.
Yeah.
I've got to plug something in here really quick. Dude, you know how as a counselor, like premarital is such a thing?
Yeah.
And there are therapists out there that are just like, no, I am a premarital counselor. That is what I do. That is my niche. Well, dude, there needs to be pre-baby counseling. That needs to become just as big of a thing as premarital counseling, because I would highly recommend, as you're getting ready for any big life event like having a child, get into therapy together and start working through like conflict resolution and how you work together as a team to make decisions.
Yeah,
there's actually are some resources out there, and there are therapists who are specialized in postpartum counseling, but they also will do some like preventative, or not preventative, but like early, before you have the baby. Christina and I actually did a course. It was called Bringing Baby Home, and it was developed by John and Julie Gottman, who are two of like the bigger like couple therapists in the world, and have done a lot of research into relationship therapy and dynamics. And I found that helpful, but I think with everything, like starting a business, whatever, there is like proactive work you can do like that. And then there's reactive work. Like, what are you going to do as things come up? Because there's so many variables that happen in a marriage with raising kids. There's so many variables that you just don't foresee happening. And it even brings out things in yourself that you didn't know. You know what I mean? I mean, you kind of mentioned something along those lines earlier, Morgan, of like being with David, who's like in all this therapy. And you're like, well, I'm kind of learning some things about myself that are coming up, and I'm going to like work on it here in therapy, or like whatever the case is. So I think there's just a lot of reactive work that has to happen. And I think, unfortunately, in our society, we only do like the fun, proactive work. Like we'll go to the birthing classes, we'll sit on the like squishy balls or whatever, listen to the speakers and all that kind of stuff. And like, that's all fine. But like, what happens like during the birth if like the baby won't turn, right? And then you have to have a C-section, your whole birth plan goes out the window. How do you like adapt and adjust to that? So I think there's just so much reactive work that has to happen, that I just think therapy is really important for all couples, to be honest with you. Like, and I say that as a therapist who's in couples therapy, like it's been a very helpful thing for Christina and I, but we'll get more into that in when y'all talk to us. But there are therapists out there to do specialize in that, Dave.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Wait, what were we talking about right before you plugged that? I had a thought. What were we on right before that? Do you remember?
Supporting each other in anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to make a plug too. So there's this really good book that I've read a bit of, but it's called Burnout. And it's by these sisters who have done a lot of, I can't remember if they're like neuroscientists, but it's specifically designed to talk about stress management and stress regulation strategies for women. However, I think they, having read it and like done some research into it, I think it's helpful for men or women, however you identify. but it talks about like completing the stress cycle and like using regulation tools, like when you're starting to get like overworked and just like in this fight or flight scenario. And what it sounds like David is like doing there is like he's getting into this fight or flight type of situation and he needs to go regulate. And for him, it's like getting that energy out, usually moving his body or something like that. And then he can come back in much more regulated and like able to like talk it out and everything. And I think that's a really healthy thing as long as we understand our person needs that. And there's this commitment that we're going to come back and have the conversation. We're just not going to use that to always get out of hard conversations, you know? But it outlines like several different ways, from deep breathing, physical movement, creativity. There's a lot of different ways they talk about as a way to help regulate.
I just thought of, what if we create a stressful situation in the delivery room and they're like, I'm sorry, we're going to have to perform a C-section. And I'm like, I'm sorry, doctor, I got to go for a run. I'll be back in 45 minutes.
Now, dude, you sit there and do some burpees in the corner. Okay. You bring your rowing machine in too. It's like they bring her in. You just like have your rowing machine. You're like, I'm gonna be over here rowing if y'all need me. Yeah. I did do push-ups, like not in the hospital, but right before we went to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I had like so much stress that we were like getting ready to go. I was like, there's a picture of me in our bedroom, like doing push-ups, trying to like just get some of that nervous energy out and just feeling so out of control. Yeah.
Got to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But anyway, I highly recommend that book. I think that'd be a really good one for both of y'all to look into, because you're about to go into a big change in your life, you know?
Yeah. We have one of those classes tonight.
What's that? What'd you say?
We have one of those classes tonight. One of the
do you?
classes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How would you compare going to Costco to like traveling abroad? Because I've always said that I think a couple should, before they get married, they should go to another country together where English is not the primary language and figure out how to navigate it. Are you saying that Costco on a Saturday morning just might be akin to that, a much more like affordable stressor to put a couple into to see how they navigate it? Is that what you're saying, David?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. It's like, how does this person handle themselves in a high stress situation?
Yeah. What's it like for you two when y'all go travel?
I feel like we tackled that pretty well. I would say the hardest part is on the bookends of it. So it's the airports. Yeah, still trying to figure that one out with my wife. But she's like a germ, she's constantly thinking about germs and sickness and, how dare somebody cough on a flight? She's like, oh, COVID's on the plane. COVID is in this cabin with us right now. We're all going down. So that's tough to navigate for us. Is just like the airport, the high traffic public places, the train stations. But once we're there, even like different languages, navigating our way around, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm worried that she struggles with me once we're there because I'm like a go person. I want to I want to pack in as much as I can. And I would say she loves to like explore and see, but she also wants that time to like, I want to read some books. I want to like sit by a fireplace with a pretty view or sit on a beach and relax.
Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is. I definitely have way more of the relaxed gene in me than David does. And even when we were planning our honeymoon, that was something that we had to talk about of, do we want this to be an active vacation or a non-active one? And we kind of, we ended up putting together a trip that I think was a little bit best of both worlds, but definitely even still lean more. I mean, when we travel, we like hit the ground and we go every single day, like whether we're, I remember our first New York trip, it was like 4 days and we left and I have never been so exhausted because we just like get up, and which I love. Like I love that, but I could also be totally content to sit on a beach for a day and not do anything. And David is like, jumping. Like he cannot do that. Like by noon, he is like, get me out of here. I want to go do something. Like I need to go. So we are different in that. But I think overall we travel pretty well together, and we were lucky enough in our, before we even got married, we had done a good bit of traveling together kind of early on in our relationship. So yeah, I definitely hate airports and planes and all of that, but that's a personal problem. That's always been the case, but I think for the most part we travel pretty well together.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I can make it like an hour on the beach, and then I'm like, hey, you want to build some sandcastles? Ooh, let's go in the water and see who can hold their breath the longest. You want to race?
Yeah.
Well, that's where baby girl is going to help a lot there. There's going to be a lot of like, that's going to be a really good thing, because there's all, even at early, it's going to be like, oh, there's a diaper to go change, or wait, no, she needs to be like put down for a nap, or oh, let's get her a bottle, or the amount of like fussing that you can do over a kid and that you have to do, like, that's going to be a really, like, hopefully like a really good place for you to channel that energy into, David,
Yeah.
And if you're even like that around like my kids and stuff, like going to the pool or something like that, you're like, hey, do y'all want to like dive for these things? Or maybe we should like make like a song and dance over here. And no, I'll be like a merman and you be a mermaid and we'll play. And like, okay.
Gotta stay busy, dude.
Okay, well then Morgan, how do you figure out how to pin him down? Like if like sitting down and processing and talking things out till there's a resolution, how do you do that? When do you catch him? Because he likes to get up and go first thing in the morning and then conk out at the end of the day. How do you pin him down? Have you figured that out yet?
It's a work in progress. I've tried different things. I mean, he is just hard to pin down. And I think even, when he is here, he's constantly, on the phone or working, or, you all work, in a business that is pretty 24/7, which I think was a big adjustment for me too. I was, I worked when we met a very standard, like 8 to 5, with the exception I, come from the event world. So I did have, weekends and evenings and things like that. But I wasn't used to dating somebody who was on the clock constantly. And so I think that is even still a factor now, that it's like a day by day. So typically I started tagging along on his morning walks, which he doesn't like. And that is like when I do my laundry list of tasks, he hates it, I think, secretly. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard to pin him down. I think, you got to get him while you can, because if it's like out of sight, out of mind for too long, like he's moved on to 45 other things. And, I'll bring something up sometimes and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, I've been talking about this or thinking about this for days. What do you mean? So we're still trying to figure out the best way to pin David down.
We just ran into this yesterday. We were laughing about it because she was like, what are you going to do today right after breakfast? And I was like, I need to just chill for a day. Like, I just really need to chill. I think I'm going to chill today. And dude, we get home and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I need to get all of these boxes out of the garage into the attic. I need to go run over to the Greenville Transitions house. I got to take some stuff over there.
It was like 3 hours of just like him being so and I was like, and we're both very go. So I would say that like we're pretty even matched. I don't have the energy levels that David has, especially not right now. But we're pretty even in that, like, we're both go project people, like get things done. We're not really like sit on the couch. I can be like, I can sit on the couch, but like, we're not really sit on the couch people. But yesterday when he was like, I just need a day to chill, I was like, great, like, let's do that. So I come home and I'm like on the couch outside ready to hang out. And he's like running all around the place. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, what do you mean? I have so much I have to get done. And I was like, okay, I thought we were chilling.
You might have to do like my wife, and we eventually just had to schedule meetings, like and I'll do it for different reasons from David, but I will definitely, like, I'll go to whatever project or activity brings me like joy or is fun or I'm intrigued by. And then if there's stuff that I don't want to handle or do because it's unpleasant or boring or hard, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I'll like, and it's just so subconscious. I'm like, boom, I'm doing this. And yeah, it's just like turned into a thing. Like I really need help prioritizing. So we'll like sit down every Monday morning. Like I'll go take the kid to school, usually get back about 7:30, and we'll either go out for breakfast or we'll do it at the house from like 7:30 to 9, like just talking about the week, what's going on, big things coming up. Right now, it's a lot of stuff about like holiday schedules and what's going on these weekends. There's a lot of birthdays this time of year, Christmas parties, stuff like that, and just getting on the same page about that. Because if it doesn't happen, like at night, I'm either like crashed out or busy doing something, and it's just really hard to like make happen. And we have little kids, so I have to start like scheduling a little time there. It's just a thought.
No, we do need to do that.
Yeah, that's a little thought there. Let's see, what else y'all want to talk about today? I feel like we're bouncing around all over the place per usual. It's very interesting, like this sober person with a non-sober person. I mean, it kind of sounds weird. It doesn't sound like it's a huge dynamic in your lives because David's been sober for such a long time, and then y'all like still working your self-care stuff, like a lot of couples. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's like a part of our dynamic, but not like on the forefront of our day to day. So it's definitely still there. It's not something that we're like often, talking about like daily.
Yeah, I also think like even though Morgan is normal, like she drinks and stuff, she's not a partier. Like I think it would have been hard for me to date or marry a partier.
Yeah.
And I just want to make that clarification. It's like Morgan doesn't love to like party down and drink all night, but she enjoys like a good glass of wine with her dinner. And I think that's easy for me. Where I have struggled, and I've run into situations because of her career path where like she's working an event that I need to go to, like a big company Christmas party, and there is that guy that like I go to this actually happened. Like I go to the restroom during the party, and then like a dude that is just like wasted comes up to the urinal next to me and pees on my shoe, like misses the toilet, pees on the ground, it's splattering on my shoe. His like head's up against the wall. He can't even hold his head up while he's peeing. And I'm furious. I just start fuming. And like I was about to say something to him, and I was like, well, what's the point? What's the point in saying anything to this guy? Like he doesn't have a clue what's going on. So I go back out there and I find Morgan in this party, and I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm going home. And like, I do have like a tolerance. Like I can get to a certain point, but once I hit that limit, it's like, I'm sober for a reason, and I choose not to be around this type of situation for a reason. So like I'm exiting, I'm leaving. And I think that's been tough to navigate just 2 times maybe since we've been dating and married. But
yeah, I think that's been harder to navigate than it wasn't like I was, going out a ton when we met. It was also like coming off the tail end of COVID. So I think like my weekends looked a lot different in that phase of life than maybe had he and I met a year prior. Not that I was a huge like go out party. Like he said, I wasn't a big partier, but it was a part of my like life and social world was going out. Especially like college and, right when I graduated, I stayed here in Greenville with a lot of college friends. And so that was what we did on Friday and Saturday nights. And, or, Sundays we would go and get brunch with like that was a part of my world. Yeah. So I do think like when David and I started dating seriously, I don't know a ton, but I do think it influenced it a little bit. Like I definitely stopped doing, I stopped really going out. Like that kind of part of my world shifted a little bit. Probably for the better, but it was harder to navigate when it came to work, just because I was working in an industry where alcohol is incredibly present. And I was like planning these big parties and events for the company that I worked for, where like that is what the party was for. essentially was like these big, I had a giant drinking crowd at the company I was with. So like every single work event, I mean, that's just like how it was. And I had to stay there until the end. And so like, I didn't get to leave early. I didn't get to, dip out when things got crazy. Like I had to stay there and help break it down and clean up. And like, I was that person who was responsible for doing that. And so I think, like the story that David just told, like, it's hard because now I'm stuck at this party by myself, late night, have to clean up, like don't have a ride home. Or like I think he ended up staying that night because I was like, I need help. And I think he ended up sticking it out. But I think it was harder when it was a work thing because it was like, I'm not choosing to be here. I have to be. And this is just like part of it. And so that was a little bit harder for us to navigate kind of earlier on. Just like a conflict of, his world and mine. But yeah, I do think it influenced like the activities that I was doing a little bit in the beginning of, Saturday nights looked a lot different once we started dating than before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting because like it was a part of your world at that time, but like you also weren't really like looking for it that way. You know what I mean? Like didn't really want to like you'd already said, you wanted a serious relationship. You wanted to be with somebody who like wanted to build something and just hang out, And luckily David, like once you can get him to sit down, we'll do that, like he'll sit down and hang out and chill or whatever the case is.
Yeah. And he was super willing. And I think this would have been different too. Like he was super willing to still, like if I had a group of friends who was going out one night, like he was fine to come and be there. I remember he said to me in the beginning, he was like, I don't care if we go out as long as there's like an activity that I can do. Like he wanted music or like trivia or like something there, or like food, whatever the thing was. And so I think because he was so willing to still like be around it in some aspect, I was like totally fine with it. I think it then came back to like the people that I was with. It was more of like I think they felt more uncomfortable in the beginning than I did of like wanting him to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Of like, do we drink in front of David? Like, should we order drinks? Like, should we not drink at this dinner? Like, what do we do? Like, I think that was more the dynamic than, like he was always pretty willing to, and not that I don't think we were in many of those situations, but he would always go. And then we would typically like leave before things got crazy.
Do wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even learning how to navigate it too. Of like, okay, we got to stay till the end of this thing and clean up, but it's going to get wild here. Maybe there's like a bit of like a pacing and who do I hang out with or who do I, you know what I mean? Like learning more of that. Was it earlier on when that happened, David? When the guy peed on your shoe? Or is that like, no, later on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were already living together, I think, when that happened. That was like,
engaged.
Were we?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. It was later down the road. We'd probably been together for like a little over a year. I don't know if we were engaged yet, but I had two of those it was a big company Christmas party where he like looked at me halfway through and I was like, oh my gosh, he wants to leave. I know he does. But he stuck it out both times. But I mean, I don't blame him. It was like wild at the end. I didn't want to be there either.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, anything else, gang? Anything else that you think would be helpful to chat about or discuss?
No, not that I can think of.
How about you, Morgan?
No. I don't know. Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about what it's like for me to date somebody who's sober. But I don't know if David has any thoughts on what it was like to, like, even in now, sometimes to date somebody who is not, or like be around. Because I think also like our worlds are so like most of David's, except for you, Cole, like most of David's social circle are also people in recovery, where like obviously mine are not.
Yeah.
I do think there's like some dynamic there of like he had to enter like a social scene and friendships and family members who do like to drink and what that's like.
That's like a whole like another episode, I think, of like kind of on that of like working in the substance abuse field, and then like when you see it, you can't unsee it with your family and friends. Cause we all like, I know David, Lucas, and I all have stories of that. Like we see it and we're like, I'm like, that's a problem. And Christina's like, what do you mean? I'm like, red flags right there. Watch out. You know, sometimes like months and years in advance, kind of like seeing it. You're like, I mean, we had a situation like that where I have a friend and it was a good, like probably 2 years before it came out, he had a problem that I was like, something's going on there, you know, like watch out. So,
Yeah. And I know we're at time, but the one thing I'll say really quick is like, I've never, you know, I don't ever have a problem with her. If anything, I would encourage Morgan or her family and friends to get drinks. Like, please, like, y'all get wine if you want wine. You know, I never want someone to feel like they can't do what they want to do because I'm sitting at the dinner table with them or I'm at the event with them. So I would always encourage it. But the one crazy thought that I have because of my past is when Morgan like would order a wine and drink half of it, and then we're like getting up to leave dinner, and there's still like half a glass of wine, and I'm like, "What are you doing?
You're all wrong."
What? You're not going to order the whole bottle? You just want a glass? It's like my brain doesn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
why are you drinking? You just like the taste?
Mhm.
What?
Yeah, we were on a flight recently and we had flown. We like somehow got upgraded to first class, and I don't remember where we were going, but they like offer you free champagne and wine and stuff in first class, and they offered me champagne, and I was like, it was early. I think it was like 10:30 or 11, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, no thanks. And I turned him down, and David looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, you just turned down free champagne. Are you feeling okay? It's like, it is 10 o'clock in the morning. What? And he was like, what? I don't understand. Like, could not wrap his brain around it.
She said, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I said, put some orange juice in that shit. What are we talking
Yeah,
about?
it's a little different. I will say David does a good job. Like he has like a very social circle. You know what I mean? Like he's got like his pickleball people that he will like hang out with. I'm sure there are probably people at the Peace Center that y'all know. Like, I mean, he's got like his like pretty well rounded in it. Like, you know, obviously knows a lot of people in sobriety who are in recovery, but I think a bit of that social butterflyness has come out, you know, as he's got more years under his belt, you know?
Yeah.
All right, party people. I appreciate y'all taking some time to chat about your relationship and just the dynamics and everything.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
For sure.
Thanks for coming on, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan. We appreciate it. Okay. And thank you too, David. Oh my gosh. And he's gone.
He left.
He didn't turn it off. He just left.
I can hear him upstairs yelling.
Does he have to be the one to stop the recording? Oh, hang on. I can. Let me do it. Okay. See you, Morgan.
Bye.